Thank you.
All right. Let me just start, yeah. Hello, everyone. Selamat siang, good afternoon from the land of the Thousand Island, Indonesia. How are you people from all around the world? And welcome to our panel, our session to civil society panel on 24 hours conference on global organized crime. So in this panel, we will discuss about civil society in preventing and eradicating organized crime with our prominent speakers who have the expertise in the field of crime through their research, their actions and courage in the exposing and revealing organized crime in all its forms. So everyone, we all know that prevent and eradicate to the organized crime is actually the responsibility for all people, for the government and also the law enforcement. But we as a civil society also can take part on it. And we as a civil society knowing and experience very deep and also advanced for this. Actually, government and the civil society needs to collaborate to eradicate and prevent these organized crimes to be not happen in the future. And we all know that this session will emphasize the individual experience of our Resilience Fund Fellow 2021 in advocating crime between the state and organized crime and tell story of their challenges and success story. And we all know that the meaning, the definition itself about the organized crime is very much. But we can say simply organized crime is happen transnational and transborder that already organized or well planned by the actors that are responsible for that. So it's already arranged, it's already organized, and it's involving a very big actors in international. So the first one I will introduce to you the speakers is the advocate for marginalized group and indigenous people against extortion, environmental crimes, and human trafficking. She is the Rights Foundation Director and Executive Director of Women Working Group. She is the Resilient Fellow 2021. But before I call her name, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Bima Anugrah. I'm the youth officer from the Women Working Group that really into and advocates into the marginalized groups, women's empowerment, and also indigenous people. So I would like to introduce to you once again, welcome to the panel, Nukila Evanti, the Resilient Fellow 2021. So the panel's yours.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you, Bima. Good afternoon from Indonesia. I would like to present my PPT to you. Can you share it? Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
So I would like to present about civil society in preventing organized crime. So I divided my presentation into three contents. One is about civil society and its role, and second, advocacy on trafficking in person, which is my experience, and the third one regarding lesson learned. So civil society and its role. So you might be aware as well that civil society, those who are working in public sphere outside of the government, market, family, where citizens and a wide array of non-governmental and not-for-profit organizations associate, express their interests and values, and seek to advance the common good. So who are there? There are community organization, voluntary groups, non-governmental organization, NGOs. Sometimes they call like civil society organization or CSOs. And then they can be legally registered or not. And then environmental groups such as those working on climate justice and waste management, renewable energy, marine litter, and etc. Women groups, those working on women rights or feminists. And then professional organization like those working in media, a group of lawyers, a group of activists on certain issues. So this is civil society. Just want to make us the same boat. And so what is CSO and NGOs according to the UN? There are any non-profit voluntary citizen group which is organized in local, national, and international level. They're task-oriented, driven by people with a common interest. If you don't have common interest, you cannot be united. And then perform a variety of service, being citizen concerned to the government, because the government is the stakeholders, the duty bearers of the state for sure, and provide analysis and expertise, help monitor and implement international agreements and governance, including like my case is Palermo Protocol, for instance. And then organize around specific issues such as peace and security, gender, human rights and development, and many more. So, function of civil society. Oh, sorry. The function of civil society, why? Okay. Their function are varied. Most of them like they conduct awareness, like education, research, fact finding, advocacy, mobilization, facilitation, service delivery, monitoring, reporting, recording, and lobby. This is some of the function of civil society, and many more, yeah, investigation or something like that. And then what skills needed for the civil society in organization, yeah, like in CSO or NGOs? They should have experience. For instance, they need more time, yeah, like are they facing difficult time in their life, in their organization? They have limited capacities, but they can still stand up for that. They have some dilemmas, they have choices, yeah, they have many choices. So this needs some experience if you want to be advocate something. And then soft skills is very important. You should have clear communication or effective communication, positive attitude. If you face with the government, how do you deal with that? Because you have to use the like a neutral language, for instance. And then empathy, assertiveness, problem solving is very important. Interpersonal skill, adaptability, attention in detail. Pay attention in detail. If not, you will miss something, yeah, during your advocacy. And then taking responsibility from the start until the end. Make sure your advocacy will be achievable and sustained. And then a sense of humor. Yeah, I always talk to this based on during the difficult time, we need to have a sense of humor, make a joke, so to entertain us as well. And then hard skills like spoken language is very important. You have to know about in making the proposal, make sure to have a budgeting skills and interpreting data. And deep understanding of the issues is very crucial in this regard. And then Importance of civil society in preventing the crime. This based on my experience. I conducted like this, monitoring. Monitoring could be like you monitor the laws. What kind of laws are available? What kind of legal case that we're dealing? Is that sensitive to the victim or not? And then victims. Who are the victims? Who are the witnesses? You have to know about that regarding preventing the crime. And then assisting. You need to identify who are the actors of the crime. Is that the actor is a corporate, for instance, the elites, or could be the like a state-owned enterprises or any other syndicates or mafia, yeah? And then identify the victim is a must. Who are the most marginalized in this issue? You have to find about that. Whether the victims are indigenous groups or young people, elderly, or women, or something like that, yeah. And then advocating. When you advocating, you try to find, you visit the field, in the field. You don't do normative things. You don't just read in the library or reading the literature for review. This is not civil society ways, yeah. And then you assess, because there are so many research. You assess the research, investigate after that. This is very important. And then you also conduct awareness. We need to have awareness, conduct awareness. To educate is very important. I think the awareness and education, to educate is the starting point if we want to do deep advocacy. And then the most important thing is to collaborate and make a coalition, make a coordination, make a cooperation, because we cannot do that in silo for preventing the crimes. You need to find similar local NGOs or civil society who also working with this issue, but different perspective. So next, mobilizing. Mobilizing the most marginalized, because you need to do that, because if you ended with your project or your program, you need to rely on this group. They're the one who will be there forever, and then they're the one who can follow themselves. They're the one who are the owner. For instance, regarding the land conflict that I'm dealing now, I also give, I also rely what the needs of the indigenous community in for instance, currently in Rempang, for instance. And then minorities, check whether they are minorities group or they are the vulnerable group in this case. And the most important thing is exposing. Expose, you cannot do that in silence, yeah. Make it broadly. You need to make it highlight because to the media, make it a report, could be on policy paper, brief paper, and then making a video and then publish it towards the YouTube or Instagram, TikTok or Facebook and any other social media that can be accessed by the public as well. So they know what is the current situation, what's the need of this, the most marginalized, for instance, the minorities, the vulnerable or something like that. And then the end is creating the environment, whether you want to reform the policy, to transform it, to transform from the bad thing to be the good things, and then protection, and then legislative change, and then a fair and justice system, and many more. Yeah? What kind of the goal that you want to achieve at the end of your advocacy? Strength. What kind of our strength of civil society in preventing the crimes? We are self-driven. We are doing by ourselves, right? We been driven by motivated by ourselves because we want to see justice, for instance, and then we are self-motivated. We associated with the norm of democracy, accountability, gender equality, human rights, respect for the rules. Participation is a must for everyone. Accessibility for everyone, and publicity is very important. And then high acceptability. right? Because we are not, if you work with the government, you need to be, have a higher position if you want to speak. For the civil society, you can speak in line, yeah, with your case, and then you can express yourself as well. You can do freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom of assembly, something like that for your work. And then international network. I have experience during my in resilience fellowship, resilience fund fellowship. I got the chance to, for instance, to work with the Alliance of NGOs on prevention and criminal justice, to speak, to give the statement in implementation of Kyoto Declaration regarding the rule of law and access to justice. And then I had the chance during my fellowship to speak on the Vienna NGO Committee on drugs, for instance, on drug crimes. So this is the power of civil society, because we just not only reading or doing things like writing or reporting, but we also changing. Yeah, we do some change for our society. And then advocacy on trafficking in person, regarding trafficking in person. So why my case in 2022 to 2023 is human trafficking on trafficking in person, because you can see also in GI-TOC index, and also this trafficking in person in from the US government. Yeah, trafficking in person in Indonesia is still a major challenge. It's everywhere. The Indonesian Police Task Force for Human Trafficking Crime revealed that 2,693 people had become victims in June 2023. This is the big numbers, more than 2,000. And then the most common is the trafficking, the victim as illegal migrant worker or domestic worker is among 522 cases. Commercial sex worker victim 9,000 to 200 something, and then crew members victim like a sailor, yeah, is 69 cases. The majority of victims are women and children. That's self-driven me that I need to do this advocacy. And then in 2022, Indonesia categorized a tier 2 watch list, mean the government doesn't fully meet the minimum standard for the elimination of trafficking, but is making significant efforts to do so. And then the recommendation said it needs to do investigation, prosecution, convicting trafficking, and the mastermind of this trafficking in person. Also need to increase awareness of trafficking trend and vulnerabilities. Indonesia is the country of trafficking person with most destinations are to Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei Darussalam, Hong Kong, and the Middle East. How to start? How did I start my advocacy? I need to have like an initial assessment, research of the areas of origin that are most trafficked and where syndicates of crime that ensnare the most victim and the root of syndicates. So this is the way that I do assessment before I start my advocacy. And then I chose two borders areas, Indonesia, Kalimantan, Indonesia and Kalimantan, and Singapore. Indonesia, Kalimantan, Kepulauan Riau, and Singapore. And also NTT as the areas with the most trafficking victim. I have focused on advocating for women prospective migrant workers who will go to work abroad in order them to recognize trafficking in person and any other crimes while they're in destination countries. And I have discussed also with former female migrant workers or the survivors who have returned to Indonesia, so that they can share their stories, their sad stories, and I can take the lesson for preventing this crime from their stories. So during this advocacy, I'll also engage with government for sure, because they're the one, right, who will later enforce the law and also to investigate, to prosecute, to bring to justice. So this is I would like to show you the picture where I'll give the trainings in NTT. I work with the agency on sending of migrant workers, female migrant workers to destination countries. This mostly these ladies, they don't know about the crimes. They know about the laws. They don't know about the syndicates. They believe if their for instance their neighbor ask them to go to the Malaysia for working, and then they know that they don't need the travel document, and then somebody will take care of their travel document. So that's why it needs the training for them regarding the laws, reading the contract of the laws, and also to recognize the trafficking in person and any other crimes. I conducted the training simultaneously in NTT and also at the border areas in Kalimantan and Kepulauan Riau, border of Malaysia and Singapore. And then this is targeted to female migrant workers, as I mentioned earlier. This woman will be the peer, will be the champion for their friend to save their life. So my goal is when they receive the training from me, they will continue to educate their peer, their friends at the destination countries. This is the impact to them as well, right? And then they also make like a cluster on WhatsApp group, so they know each other their news. They know each other where their location, how are they doing. This is the power of making the making the peer, yeah, the peer group after the training. And then this is when I hear the testimony from the survivor of the trafficking in person. She said that she was trafficked by and then brought by her neighbor, and her neighbor didn't realize as well that she also the victim of trafficking. So this is what we call circle of victims. We are civil society, we never let this happening again to them. Then she said her story that she don't have a job, she the patriarchal culture in the family, because she need to raise for income for the family because she's the only hope. So that's why she being seduced to go to abroad, because even though she didn't complete her study in elementary school, and then she just and then she being trapped by the syndicate to go abroad to Malaysia on this case. So she said she felt still traumatized. She felt depressed, shame, because all the neighbors knows that she been trapped, and there is no mental help from the government to help her, no psychosocial to help her. This is happening, yeah, for the survivor of the crimes of trafficking in persons. And then policy dialogue. I conducted policy. Why I conducted policy dialogue? Because if we do that only one side for the victim or for the survivor or for the local NGOs, what we may make the gaps with the policymakers or the legal enforcer. So I at the end of my advocacy, I conducted share my finding when I was in the field, how I did my advocacy to the parliament, to the government. They're from immigration office, they're from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they are from Ministry of Human Rights and Laws, they're from the prosecutor office, attorney general office, from Indonesian National Police Office. So I also invited the civil society, so they're not in they know each other, right? We know each other, we can do coalition. What can we do together after this? And then this by the end of the policy dialogue, the parliament will revise. So my transformation change is the parliament will revise the law regarding trafficking in person. To combat trafficking in person, they still in drafting now. This law is very important because it didn't clear about the exploitation during the traffic, and also there is no protection of children in this law, law on trafficking in person. This law is in 2007. It's been a long time. There is so many modus and also new trends, new trend of trafficking in person, like cyber scam. What else? And then any other type of the crimes that we need to anticipate as for the civil society as well. Like we have using the social media platform to get the sex worker, for instance. This is also there is a trend like that the people use their visa in passport, ASEAN visa, to go to Singapore, for instance, for as a maid, but she didn't realize that she been trafficked because there is no contract of working. And then the moving from Capri, for instance, Indonesia to Singapore, they use like broker, the broker who connect the owner or the corporate or those who are going to use this female worker. So this there is a broker on this crime. So they didn't realize about that, and the law should be adaptable, on this issue, because changing of the modus, changing of the location, the crime, and the more targeted to the women, young people, even also those after this pandemic COVID-19, the trend is so much changing. All right. So my output, my outcome is I make a module like this. So I make the module this in Bahasa Indonesia. So I make the module to make it easy for the not only for the victim, or the prospective female migrant workers, but also for the government. I make it more simple, like how the pattern of protection should protection for the victim of trafficking that should be in place. Like it needs more information on and prevention at the very beginning, and then identification is very important, because sometimes we don't know, right, who identify the victim. Is it NGOs or the police, right? They're supposed to go to the field, right? Not just receive the report from the victims or from the family of the victim. And then make it with picture. It's very easy if you do like a infographic or with the illustration or simple module, because sometimes we make the module like a just for the academic. So but our target is for those people who have
Sorry for interrupt. Your time is 2 minutes left.
All right, thank you, moderator. Okay. So this is the way when when you conducted the advocacy, some of media approach us, and then we have to be careful as well when you been interviewed, because otherwise you will dealing with like a defamation, for instance. Careful with the words that you use. This is happening to me. If you use direct attack to the government, they will send you to the court for instance for insulting case, for instance, like that. So this is the highlights that I conducted into some news, yeah, covered my activities in the field, also in the with the policymakers, as you can see. And yes, lesson learned. What the lesson learned that I got from the field? One is I'm still dealing with the culture of the community, like a patriarchal. The community in in NTT, in the border areas, they're mostly living in the pure condition. And then they have lack of education, lack of information, a lack of technology. They don't have the proper jobs, or something like that, decent job. And then poor socio-cultural societies. This is a challenge for me, and lesson learned for me as well. And then second is need more understanding by law enforcement official, could be from the police, prosecutors, judges, regarding human trafficking, particularly if the victim are children. This is happening in my case when they say, if some children under the 18 years old, they dress like a adult, and then one of the one of the colleagues said, she's already adult. No, I said, she's on the paper is a children. So this is the way people perceive about the age of the children, on the protection of the children. And then the third one, the role at civil society is still lacking in providing legal assistance. Because when you have in destination country, the civil society will be those working and those who have the office in, for instance, in Malaysia, in Singapore, in Taiwan, or something like that. But for us, it's quite unreachable, yeah, to go to Malaysia because due of the lack of the funding, lack of the limitation of the, for instance, permission or something like that. And then also psychosocial recovery assistance for I didn't finish, but psychosocial recovery assistance, for instance, like the case in NTT, many victims, many survivors, they need mental health coaching, mental health to recover their trauma, their anxiety. But there is no consistent available mechanism provided by, for instance, by the duty bearers. So this is all my presentation. Thank you so much for your listening. And if you have any question, please during the Q&A. Thank you. Over to you, Bima.
All right, thank you so much, Miss Nukila. You did well and explain us how you start your advocacy, especially in human trafficking, and you also tell us about what did you found while you're doing your advocacy. There's a lot of interesting that I already highlight, but we can talk it more when we in the Q&A session. And it's my duty to talk to you guys that you can ask by using the chat comments column. So you can ask our speakers and we can talk about it in the last 15 minutes before we end the panel. All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Nukila, once again. And let me introduce to you our next speakers, that he's investigative journalist, then Radio Free from Europe, Radio Liberty in Serbia, and he as accomplished investigative journalist with a strong background in digital forensic and financial investigation. This one is Mr. Miles Ketik, has a proven track record of uncovering complex stories related to organized crime and corruption. All right, I don't want to wait for long, and I think you guys did the same thing to me. Please welcome Mr. Miles Ketik from Serbia.
Thank you, Bima. First of all, I want to thank you all for attending our panel, And I will try to be short and to make some introduction for my colleague Igor Išpanović, who will talk after me about the case on which we worked together. So the main idea is to give you overview about Serbia environment and environment in which journalists and activists are working. So Nukila already mentioned importance of the media and the influence on public opinion. So I will add that special importance is on the side of investigative journalism, because they are working on those topics related to organized crime and, I will say, organized corruption. So I will go straight forward to save our time for Q&A part. So Serbia overview, I choose 4 indexes for I think that they will explain on the best way environment in which we are work. First of them is the organized crime index. As you can see, the organized crime index is a tool designed to measure levels of organized crime in a country and assess their resilience to organized crime activities. So the first place is the country which have failure in resilience and the lack of capacity to work in that field. So when we are talking about Europe, on the first place is the Russia, on the second place is Ukraine, and on the third place is our country, Serbia. So I stress several spheres which I think that are important, and why those countries are, especially Serbia, is on that place. So those are heroin trade, corruption, financial crime, and human trafficking. So when we are talking about heroin trade, it is a dominant illicit drug market in Serbia, with the country serving as a transit hub connecting the east and the west. This trade involves various organized crime groups and exhibits evidence of collaboration with neighboring criminal organizations. Notably, violence is associated with Serbia's heroin market due to the involvement of national and international mafia-style groups. Law enforcement's response is inadequate, primarily due to corruption. Besides the heroin, I will add that cocaine trade. If you follow Europol actions in the last several months or media in Europe, maybe you noticed that in Europe we have several big sized of cocaine. In each of them, some person from the Balkan countries were included. So Serbia is a significant player in the cocaine trade, cooperate with the criminal groups in Montenegro to form a network that facilitates the smuggling of cocaine from Latin America to Western and Central Europe. When we are talking about human trafficking in Serbia, Serbia remains a source, transit, and destination country for human trafficking victims. Serbia women and children are often victims of sex trafficking and child marriage in neighboring countries, while men are trafficked for forced labor in the construction industry. Also, I will add that in Serbia we had, I think 2 or 3 years ago, one big case related to Vietnam workers in Vojvodina, in Zrenjanin. And usually we have a situation that in human trafficking we have victims from the Asia, from Philippines, from Thailand, and Indonesia comes to Serbia, and after that they use Romanian border and try to go on that path to Europe. But one case on which we worked is involved in the story about human trafficking, and Igor will present it in the next several minutes. So after that, organized crime index, one very important index is corruption perception index. It ranks 180 countries and territories by their perceived levels of public sector corruption according to experts and business people. As you can see, Serbia have scored last year 36 and rank 101. That is the lowest level for Serbia when we are looking in the last several years. So I stress two important things. That is, the judiciary is heavily influenced by political players, and the high-level officials are involved in court decisions. So it has been slow. Serbia is being slow in addressing organized crime, and responsible institutions are still lacking adequate resourcing and independence. Serbia judiciary is heavily influenced by political players, severely undermining progress in organized crime cases, including those pointing to high-level officials' involvement. One of the famous case in Serbia is that which involved Veljko Belivuk, also known as Velja Nevolja, and is on trial for some serious crimes like murder, kidnapping, having illegal weapons, and selling drugs. He told the court that his gang did what the government asked them to do. So he said that he and his group helped the government even after one of his associates was killed. He claimed that they got their orders from top government officials, including a meeting with the president of Serbia, Aleksandar Vučić. He also mentioned that the interior minister, Aleksandar Vulin, was involved. So Belivuk's claims caused a big controversy in Serbia, and some people accuse him of trying to blackmail the president and others who are fighting against the criminal organization. That case is in progress, so we will see how it will, what accusation will they have at the end. So his group, the Janjičari, which later became Principi, had connection to both private security companies and government officials. Belivuk also admitted that his group was involved in a strange incident in 2016 when some buildings were destroyed at night in Belgrade Savamala neighborhood. This helped a big real estate project called the Belgrade Waterfront, and it happened while people were busy with the election result. So that is related to corruption perception index, and the next index, which I think it's very important when we are talking about Serbia, is that Basel anti-money laundering index. This index measures the risk of money laundering and terrorist financing worldwide. It is based on 5 key factors. For example, a high-risk country is one that has serious deficiencies in combating money laundering and terrorist financing, has a high level of corruption and bribery, poor financial transparency and standards, low transparency and accountability of public institutions, and a high level of political and legal risk. You can see that the rank of Serbia is on 78. So the first place is that which has a lack of capacities and failure in those fields which I already mentioned. So Serbia's overall score over a 10-year period has varied from 4.87, the lowest, to 6.33, the highest out of 10 when we are talking about index, with 10 representing the highest asset risk of money laundering and terrorist financing. The situation here is similar to the corruption index. In other words, in theory, laws to prevent money laundering and terrorist financing exist in Serbia, but they are not effective in practice. Serbia can strengthen its resilience in these areas by more efficiently implementing existing laws and regulations, taking measures to combat corruption, and increasing the independence of the judiciary and other public institutions. So you can see that when we are talking about those already two indexes before this, I mentioned that they have similarities when we are talking about anomalies in our society. And the last index which I will present is that World Press Freedom Index. The reason why I mention this is because it describes environment in which our media works and our journalists are working. So you can see that when we are talking about the media landscape in Serbia, we have more than 2,500 registered media. That is official data from Serbia, and more than 37,000 civil society organizations. So for this country, opinion is that it's a good number when we are talking about activists and their involvement in different activities in our country. So Serbia have two public services. One is RTS and the other is RTV, which operate and broadcasting their channels in Vojvodina. It's the region in Serbia. And when we are talking about those award-winning investigative stories and generally investigative articles, it's a lack of visibility in Serbia because they usually publish their stories online, and just several independent media outlets use those cases to share that to wider public. So when we are talking about legal framework, at this moment in Serbia, in procedure is one of media legislation. It's a little bit controversial, and international institutions must react to in that draft of the media law. So, but one important thing is that for the first time we will have a definition of community media. Those media are those who are published by civil society organization, and I think that will help in our media environment for recognition of them. So when we are talking about the safety of the journalists in Serbia and media workers, while efforts have been underway to improve the security of journalists and fight impunity for crimes committed against them in the form of two working groups and the introduction of SOS line for media, Serbia journalists are still far from feeling protected. This is reinforced by the fact that many serious attacks on journalists remain unresolved, such as the assassination of Slavko Churuvia journalist. So I found data about this year. So in this year, there were a total 146 reported incidents in Serbia. These incidents were categorized as follows: physical attacks, 8 incidents, property attacks, 1 incident, and verbal threats, 101 incidents, and pressure, 36 incidents. That is some kind of environment in which activists and the media workers and journalists are working in Serbia. And for the end, I just want to say that the importance of the work of those investigative and media investigative journalists and media workers on the local level, because they have important role in our community. So Bima, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Milos, for your presentations. And I would like to invite our also prominent speakers that he is a junior researcher at the Institute for Philosophy and Social Theory and a PhD student in Cultural Studies at the Faculty of Political Science in Belgrade. And he is actually a freelance investigative journalist reporting on far-right extremism, labor exploitation, and corruption. Please welcome the partner of Milos, Mr. Igor Ispanovic. The time and the panel is yours.
Thank you, Bima, and thank you for having me here. I'll just share my presentation. Can you all see it?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So I think that Milos already gave a proper introduction to what I'm going to say here, but as just sort of to follow up on his presentation, I will focus here on a specific case that him and I worked on. I think that we published this story earlier this year, but the process was so long that I cannot even point at the right an exact time when we did this. I think we worked on it for well over a year, and this is sort of what was the end product of it. So I'm gonna go through the story, but I'm also gonna go through the process, the investigative process of how we did it. But before I do that, I just want to briefly sort of summarize what the situation regarding human trafficking in Serbia is. So these are the numbers of victims, and as you can see, they're steadily increasing, with the most dominant form being the sexual exploitation, followed by labor exploitation. The numbers are increasing. I cannot say for certain why that is the case, whether that be the numbers of felony actually increasing, or maybe the institutions and authorities being more efficient in detecting, investigating, and processing these cases. But the anomaly being is that when we talk to the prosecutor's office for organized crime in Serbia, and that was in November 2022, they told us that there hasn't been a single case of human trafficking involving organized crime in Serbia, or at least they haven't processed such a case, which is quite peculiar given what I will sort of try to prove and argue through this presentation. When it comes to perpetrators of human trafficking, the numbers are again increasing. So there were there was a total of 62 adults charged with this felony in 2021. Year after that, so in 2022, the number was 77, and these are all the information that we got from the Statistical Office of the Republic of Serbia. As far as the trends go, Milos already sort of mentioned it, but the construction industry is sort of this big sector where these trends, especially in regards to labor exploitation, are more and more prominent. This is also the case for automobile industry, but also for service businesses. And in recent year, we have seen a greater influx of workers coming from abroad to Serbia. And in the next slide, I will show which countries are most prominent when it comes to this. But the thing is that when they do come to Serbia, their stay and their work here is usually unregulated or not properly regulated, as the numbers from the Serbian work inspection show. So in 2021, out of almost 8,000 foreign citizens found at work in Serbia, almost 1,500 of them weren't issued a proper working permission. So these are the visas issued by the Serbian embassy in Jakarta, Indonesia, and this embassy covers the entire region, so which includes 10-ish or so countries. And these are the numbers that actually stand out. So when you compare the top 5 countries where workers come from to Serbia, with the rest of it, there is a stark contrast. So you can see with Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, and Malaysia, the numbers are well over 500. And I marked the Vietnam in 2021 in red because that's the year when those workers that Milos mentioned in regards to a tire factory in Zrenjanin, which is owned by a Chinese company, Linglong, when they actually came to Serbia. But this is only the official number. The estimates are that between 600 and 1,200 people from Vietnam came to Serbia during that period. So you can see sort of the inconsistencies and irregularities when it comes to issuing visas, issuing temporary residence permits, and issuing work permits. And the one visa that we were particularly interested in was issued in May 2021. This was issued to a Philippine woman, which we will call here Samantha, although that is not her real name. And this is sort of where the story, the investigative piece Milos and I worked on kicks in. So the story goes that Samantha agreed to take care of a household in Serbia of a wealthy family in the capital of Serbia, in Belgrade. To do so, to come to Serbia, she had to have her visa issued by the embassy, by the Serbian embassy in Jakarta, Indonesia. One of the documents that she needed to do that was an employment contract. However, in her case, she signed a fictitious contract with a consulting agency, Digital4 Global. Her position, according to that contract, would be of a marketing coordinator, and her salary would go up to 800 euros. However, when she came to Serbia in autumn 2021, that was not the case, and she was met with very different and very severe working conditions than those that were necessarily promised and agreed with her. At the time of working on this story, Milos and I were at the civil society media outlet, Vojvodina's investigative and analytical center, Voice. Voice was also the media outlet that revealed the story on Vietnamese workers. So kind of the sort of this flow of workers coming from Eastern, Southeastern Asia to Serbia kind of became a sort of like a trademark for the outlet. So this is one of the excerpts when we were able to talk to Samantha. The thing that strikes the most is that she didn't have her passport, and the family sort of tried to justify that because she still, at the time of working for them, she didn't have her residence permit issued. So they took away her passport. These are the working conditions that she was met with. So she was working between 14 and 16 hours per day. She was harshly mistreated by the family, not fully financially compensated, especially in the second month of her employment days, employment there, so to say. She was there only for 2 months before she tried to escape, which I will elaborate on in the next slides. And as I mentioned, so her movement was restricted because she didn't have her passport with herself. and she was under constant surveillance, whether by the family or by the driver that was assigned to follow her whenever she would try to go outside, meet her sister, etc. So when we did this story, these are the people, entities, institutions that we try to reach out to. We try to cover it from all the possible angles. We also try to contact the family, but I put the asterisks in there because at the time they were, well, they told us that they were going through something and that they didn't want to talk to us, which is why we didn't have them in our final piece. Also, one of the ethical dilemmas here, and I think it was mentioned in one of the panels yesterday, was that the topic of human trafficking often gets sensationalized and politicized. So putting the name behind the family out there would certainly cause some fever about the whole case, and we didn't want to put focus on the family. We wanted to put focus on the victim and on her case. So, but who was really important to us, if not the family, was the lawyer that on behalf of the family facilitated Samantha's arrival to Serbia. And this is one important trick that they used to sort of navigate through the system and put Samantha in position where she was victimized and discriminated. So she told us that her employment contract, the one signed with Digital for Global for marketing coordination, could only be applied when the employee has the temporary residence and work permits issued, which wasn't the case with Samantha. She was in that process for nearly 2 months while she was with the family, and to this day she hasn't got any. There wasn't any conclusion. She didn't get the residence permit, but she also wasn't rejected for her residence. So she's kind of in a limbo and always under the threat of being deported. Yeah, so this is what I basically say here. So Samantha was accompanied by the lawyer to get the residence permit done. That wasn't the case. They went 2 times. The documentation wasn't complete. And yeah, as I said, so to this day, she still hasn't got her residence permit. This, of course, causes risks to Samantha's legal status and safety. What I mentioned earlier was that after 2 months, the family Samantha started to resist the family's needs and demands. She kept asking about why her passport is not with her. This caused, so to say, problems to that family, and they didn't want to be bothered with that. So they tried to actually force her to go back to the Philippines. But in doing so, they only, according to Samantha's testimony, they only bought her ticket to Hong Kong, and they were sort of, well, you can manage it from there. So when she came to the airport, she was helped by the driver of that family, who took her away. And after that, they contacted Astra, which is a Belgrade-based anti-trafficking initiative and CSO. And they are the ones who took her case in front of the Center for Human Trafficking Victims Protection. However, the corruption arises here as well, because as you see here, the process was filled with incidents. It was filled with irregularities. So it was sort of re-traumatizing Samantha and the experience that she had with the family and what she went through. So they did not address the issue of accommodation at all. They did not respect the reflection period. And in the end, they did not issue any sort of official document saying that they identified Samantha as a human trafficking victim. They notified her by calling. There was an unknown male voice calling them, notifying that she hasn't been identified, and that was the end of the process. When the story came out, this was sort of the impact that we managed to have. So it was widely covered by both national newspaper and television channels, as well as regional outlets from Croatia and Bosnia. What was really sort of funny in this case, because we didn't mention the name of the family, we were even covered by the tabloid, the pro-regime media, which was in the end really interesting because that doesn't happen often. Also, we managed to have Astras, who helped us with this case, started receiving more and more calls from other potential victims of human trafficking, which was on the one hand encouraging because we want those cases to be solved, but on the other hand, it's really sad that you have all these other cases that are not visible and that are still ongoing in Serbia. As far as the institutions go, their response was limited. For example, during this process of working on the story, the Belgrade Police Department refused to respond to our Freedom of Information request, dismissing it as untidy. The case that Samantha also brought in front of the first basic prosecutor's office in Belgrade was downgraded because she wasn't identified as a victim of human trafficking. And according to the latest information that I have, that case has now been dismissed entirely. So that's sort of the crux of it. Thank you for listening, and thank you for having me here again.
All right. Thank you so much. We have 7 minutes for the Q&A, but if no one have a question, maybe I can give a trigger question first. I want to ask to Milos or Igor. Actually, it's really important when I already highlight that you say that you found the judiciary is heavily influenced by political players and high-level officials' involvement. To what extent that the involvement of the high level itself can facilitate the organized crime itself? And I just want to know about the situation that you as an investigator, journalist, doing the investigation in Serbia. Do you get the point?
I'm not sure that I understand on the good way. So can you just repeat the straight point?
All right. You say that you found the judiciary is heavily influenced by political players and high-level official involvement. I just want to know to what extent this involvement of political player and high-level official facilitate the organized crime in Serbia.
I cannot say for sure because a lot of those cases are still in procedures. So we will see at the end the result of those cases. So maybe that will be the time where we can be for sure and to have some evidence for those cases and involvement of and possible involvements of our political person and official. Until now, we have several evidence which are published by journalists, investigative journalists in Serbia, that some of the very important persons had contacts with persons from organized crime groups, but that is one part of the story, and the second one is that how institutions will respond on that.
Yeah, if I can only add to that, I mean, this case that we did also showcases that, because I didn't mention it in the presentation, but the lawyer was actually I mean, I wouldn't say close contact, but contact with the police department, with also the Philippine consulate in Belgrade. So what we got from Samantha when we spoke to her the second time was that after she escaped the airport with the driver, the next day they went to the Philippine consulate to ask for help. When they came, the doors were locked. It opened after 2 p.m. and there was a sort of junior official there telling them that the person responsible, the person in charge of the consulate is not here. Then they tried to reach out to her through email, and I think after several messages, the woman in charge of the Philippine consulate admitted that the lawyer told her that they would come, so she decided not to be there. So you can see how they're in close coordination and relation, criminal actors as well as institutions, and together they sort of facilitate this, or in this case, organized network of human trafficking and labor exploitation.
Right. Thank you so much. I think it's already clear. Your answer was really clear. And for the last 2 minutes, I just want to give the summaries of our panel today. That first one is civil society has a strong involvement for preventing and eradicating crimes, in this case about our organized crime. And the second one is the most important that we can do, by Nukila already said, is monitoring, assisting, advocating, mobilizing, exposing, and creating the environment. Because specifically exposing, because we cannot move forward in the silence. And by the research by Igor and Milos about the organized crime in Serbia found that judiciary is heavily influenced by political players and high-level official involvement. And last but not least is legal status and safety needs to provide for everyone who fell being victim of trafficking. And I believe and I trust that everyone on this panel also believe, even if the world ends tomorrow, humanity will never die. So let's go do this together by advocating, speak your voice, and help everyone on these needs to against the organized crime in terms of preventing and eradicating. Thank you, everyone, and the prominent speakers that already attend this 24-hour conference on global organized crime panel 14C, Civil Society Panel. So it is our time to finish it, but I think it's not our time to finish what we gonna do for eradicating and prevent the organized crime.